Hello, welcome back to Otter Pop Culture. Today we're going over the series of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. This is a Netflix original series, and this is actually on the same time, it was created by Roberto, hope I pronounced this right, Aguilar Sacasa. He has been having his hands pretty much in Supergirl, the 2013 Carrie, and most importantly, the Riverdale series. So in this show, it's pretty much about a half witch, half mortal teenager named Sabrina, who has to pretty much find the balance of the duality of her nature of being a half witch and half mortal, and staying up against the evil forces in between that direction while finding herself where she wants to belong in between the worlds. So, I really as much as Riverdale is a dark kind of version of Archie, I felt like this one pretty much in the same vein of that. But I personally feel like this is actually much more darker in the best way. I feel like thanks to Netflix and not it being on CW, which is I'm so glad it wasn't, is that they have so much space to say so much things about Sabrina and her and the touching on a lot of the witchcraft stuff like that, and without having to limit themselves to how much gore and how much intensity they can bring to it. So I'm going to kind of highlight some of the break down the pretty much all four parts of this. I'm going to be very kind of short and cut to the point kind of direction because there's a lot, especially season 3 is a lot to break down. So, but I'm also going to give you some of my thoughts about it too. So going into the first season, we introduced to Sabrina, half witch, half mortal, and she lives with her two aunts because her mom died and her dad died too. So, and it's her 16th birthday, and it's time for her to have her dark baptism. Another thing I really like about it is that they have that kind of because they worship the dark arts and everything and the Dark Lord, which is Lucifer obviously, but they have things they say. So instead of saying for heaven's sake, they'll say for hell's sake, or if they're like the hell I'm not, it would be the heaven I'm not. It's everything's very opposite and it fits in what they're doing. So dark baptism was what she needs to be part of. She's thinking about it because she's going to a mortal high school, and which is Baxter High, and she has all these friends she has Rosalind, Susie, Nicholas. Susie, and Nicholas. Or Roz, Susie, and Harvey are her main friends, and so she has a thing with Harvey too, and it's really cute. But this is I'm more focusing on Sabrina until the other people have their own little pieces they want to break down later on. So pretty much the first season circles around her trying to figure out how to get out of the dark baptism, because she doesn't want to praise when she finds out that you're praising the devil to get these powers and everything. She doesn't know how she feels about that. So, and it gets to the point where she almost dark baptism gets ready to happen, and she's getting ready to do it, and then she's like, nope, don't want to do it. And she says, and she starts to kind of goes direction where she wants to embrace her, both sides of herself. And at first, it was a whole thing. Lucifer pretty much decided to sue her by saying that she didn't act, that she was supposed to act on it. She said she would, and she didn't. She didn't write her name inside the Satan's book, and they're very mad about that. But we find out that she's pretty much has been baptized in an actual church, and in a Christian church, and pretty much that stops her from having to do the dark baptism. Unfortunately, and so with that, they're like, okay, fine. But she agrees to go to the witching school, witching academy, to pretty much kind of please everybody in a way. Like, she'll go to school, but she'll go to both schools kind of thing, so she can learn more arts and whatever. Of course, things get in her way, and manipulation happens to where stuff is starting, like, these witches are coming back, they're in their grave, they're causing a lot of commotion, a lot of issues to the town, and she doesn't have the official powers to stop it. So she pretty much gets, convinced by Lilith, who's somebody that she doesn't really know at all. Lilith is somebody that comes in, who's obviously one of, Lucifer's demons, pretty much comes in, takes the body of, kills off Sabrina's favorite teacher, who she's been talking to for a while, and takes that role so that she can kind of move and puppeteer like Sabrina's movements and everything. It goes successful to the point where Sabrina ends up signing her name in the Satan's book. And she gets full-on powers, but it's kind of weird because she gets a lot more powers than we were expecting to go, to the point that she literally can control hellfire. Stops the witches that were taking over the town, and now she decides full-time to go into the academy due to the fact that she has all these powers, and she's really, really into this. So, clean of season 1, going into season 2, she's now going to the academy officially. And she meets people like Nicholas Scratch, who's another he's a bad boy and has a thing for her, but she's lightly kind of having his thing with Harvey. So it's but he's like, why don't you just date both? And so she's like, maybe I can. And I feel like one thing I want to disclaim to everyone is that the thing is, what you see throughout this series is that she doesn't entirely, hold herself responsible all the time, and she also is very single-minded when it comes to a lot of places. So when she wants something, or when she like, the baptism's a great example. Like, she's like, I'm not gonna sign it. I was like, you're really putting a lot of people in danger by not signing it, or you're putting a lot of people. And she puts a lot of her own agenda in front of everybody, but kind of wraps it around like kind of entitlement in a weird way, or wraps around like, I'm standing up for myself, but but she's not looking at the whole picture of how that would affect other people and herself and the consequences. She's not looking at the consequences. She's looking at what she wants, and she gets it, And you'll see that kind of play out, and also play the consequences of what happens to that direction, which is this whole series of pretty much about that. Susie is also, now that we can talk about one of the friends, Susie comes out as Theo, which is a really, really cool name. But he gets bullied. He also comes out as a male, and he wants to be called Theo, but he gets bullied due to the fact that he was at high school, at Baxter High, still a female, and he's going into the men's locker room, and shit's just getting crazy. They're obviously not tolerable of any of this. But I love that they stand through it. My own critique is that they didn't really. I felt like there's so much more that they could have broke down for Theo to kind of wrap things out, but I felt like it was so kind of like, as a matter of fact, boop. It was just like it climbed over one. I felt like it climbed over one episode, and I was like, I think we should have saw it a little bit of that in season 1 to get a feel that he is living in a wrong body. But I give it to them that they did it anyway, but I just wish they had more detail. Lucifer decides to think about the idea that she has a lot of these powers. He's like, maybe she could be my herald, my next queen to the throne or whatever. Or herald at first. But he knows that she has a bit of not really wanting to do bad. She doesn't want to do bad things, and he's pretty much the king of bad things. So he pretty much tests her. She's like, if you don't do that, I can take your power away. I can do, like, he's threatening her with all these stuff to the point where she literally follows one of the tests to almost burn down Baxter High. But since he sees that she is loyal to that direction, he's okay. He's like, don't do it. It's good. And then another thing happens that we start getting kind of angels. Season 2 is kind of messy, but we get these angels / witch hunters And that's, I thought, like, oh, we're getting a taste of, like, angel power. And of course, they kill her off, but then Lucifer resurrects her, and she comes back even stronger and uses the power of hell to, like, take them down. And now everybody's like, oh shit, she is something amazing. And he's like, now I want you to be my queen, due to the fact that you did that. Like, due to the fact that you really are very powerful, you're obviously meant to be with me, you know? And so while he says that, he also admits to her, she's like, your father is not really your father. I'm your father. I impregnated your mom, and now you're pretty much are the heir to the throne. But she doesn't like that, but they play along with it because they know that she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want that role. She doesn't want anything to do with hell. So they worked with Lilith and the group with Nick, and Rosalind and Theo and Harvey. They worked together to stop these things from happening. With her cousin who lives with her, Ambrose, who I fucking adore. They help by pretending like she's going to be on the throne, but what really happens is that they're trying to trap Lucifer. They end up trapping Lucifer into Nick's body, and Nick's very cool with that. He actually volunteered to have that happen in Nick's body, which makes the throne not touchable. It's empty. So she says, I don't really want to be that, and Lilith is like, I'll do it. And so she becomes the queen of hell, and it looks, in the end of that season, it's just so nice with her walking around with a crown and everything. And she says, Lilith, the person that plays Lilith, she is godly. Like, she's a fucking goddess. She just looks so gorgeous and so amazing. She has this poise, she has this way. I want to be her. Anyway, she's like, okay, cool. I'm taking Nick's body to hell because, we gotta keep watch that he doesn't get out of the body. So all that's happening, and with no Lucifer, they had to, the Academy has to serve something to get their powers, so they decide to serve Lilith. And at the end of that season, Sabrina and her friends are sitting on, at this restaurant, and they're like, what do we do now? That way we have everything went back. And she's like, we're gonna go back and steal and get Nick back. Completely something that is just like, we should really think about this situation of doing this, before we actually do it. But it's those kind of reckless, we're doing it. This is what we're really gonna do. I want this way now. It's just like, well, what about the fact that we did this on purpose to keep it this way, and the fact that Nick sacrificed himself to his body to have Lucifer be caught in his body was definitely not the original plan, but there's a lot of things that fall apart because of, well, she's not the only one that kind of looks into for herself kind of gain, but there's other friends that do it too, but when she does it, it really, really matters because she has a lot of power to back it up. Okay, so we're going to go to season 3, part 3. Bear with me. This is a lot that they explain because they really decided, oh shit, we're going to boost up the plot. Pretty much what's happening in this one is that when she goes to hell to take Nick's body back and stuff like that, it doesn't go so hot because, it works out, but it works out. They put Lucifer into I forgot to talk about this person. They put it inside the headmaster of the academy, the Witching Academy's body, and this headmaster actually has been completely on fucking Sabrina's dick for the minute that she fucking walked in. And so of course he was starting to do all kinds of bad things in season 2, so he pretty much just got exiled from it, and they decided to put the Lucifer inside his body, and to restore the balance of the realm, she's like, okay, things are getting crazy, maybe I do need to take the role. So she takes the role of the throne, and as Lilith as her guide instead, and we're like, okay, cool, everything's working out. But then a prince of hell comes through named Caliban, and he's like, I'd like to challenge you because I'm actually been in hell, you've never been here, I know what it's like, and you don't, And she's like, cool, that sounds great. But she knows that he's just bad news, complete bad news. So she's like, definitely, you're not gonna have the throne. And Lilith's like, yeah, he definitely should not have the throne. Um, so the whole thing, majority of the thing of this season is pretty much her doing these 3 tasks that she has to do to items that she has to retrieve throughout the hell before Caliban retrieves it. So it's a whole kind of race over time and everything. And while that's happening in hell, in the surface part, there's this pagan carnival that started to sprout up, and everything's cute because everybody's going like, oh, it's a carnival, it's so fun, and which is I would think too. It's like, oh, it's so cool. But they are actually they've been sacrificing and killing off people to sacrifice to their god, the Green Man, which is the Green Man predates Christianity, and that's what they talk about. They're like, we want to resurrect him and take over this land because technically it was our land before the witches came on and threw it and chased us out of it, and now we want it back. But obviously they're a little crazy. But so the witches are just like, okay, we gotta stop you, but we don't have official power because Lilith's not really shooting out power as much as Lucifer did. I think Lucifer had, due to the fact that he was an angel, he had a little more power than a demon. So yeah, so they're like, okay, what do we do? Lucifer's power is not here. Lilith's power is not really doing it. So they decide to get help from a voodoo queen, which is, she's amazing, and a couple of head witches to help out, and pretty much to help out in that direction, but shit gets crazy. So Lilith, on the other hand, is just like, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to do my own direction of agenda, which is I want to make sure that I'm on the throne. I'm sorry, I love Sabrina, but it's my dream. I've been waiting for this for aeons. So she pretty much works this thing where she's like, works a deal with Blackwood. She's like, I will take him out of your body and give you the Mark of Cain so you would never die. So you can go on your agenda, I don't really care what your agenda is, but I want you to impregnate me with Lucifer's son. He does that, he gets his mark, everything is fine with him, and he goes on to plan his little shit stir of his own power, because it doesn't really point, it seems like at first that he wanted his job back, but now it seems like he just wants chaos, which is very complete 360. So all of that's happening, and it gets to the point where, going back to hell, we see that Caliban is killing it, and she's killing it, and they get to the last one, and Caliban pretty much just tricks her into, giving the last item to him, and pretty much encloses her into this different part of hell, where she pretty much is there for, decades. While that happens, he takes the crown, and of course, because it wasn't meant to be for him to have the crown, shit just falls apart. Everything falls apart. The realms of hell are just completely the rings, the stages, pieces of hell are just falling apart. He even goes to, fight the pagans who are doing that, and that shit goes crazy. It's very Avengers Infinity War. See it that way, where everything goes bad, so bad that everything just ends. And everybody dies. But thanks to Ambrose, he has his time thing. He has his time bubble or ball or egg. Sorry, a time egg that shoots him back into time. And he gets Sabrina. She goes back into time to go to, or she goes. Excuse me. She goes back into time to get her past Sabrina, who's been locked in that piece of hell. Pulls her out. She's like, hey, you have to stop all of this. But once you're done, you gotta get back to me, and we had to switch back into your place to where you had to go back into this type of hell, and, because it can't be two Sabrinas. Of course, that was a deal that she made with herself. She saves everybody, she kills the Green Man, before it happens, she sends off the pagans, everything's working, and she goes back to reverse, but decides, I really don't want to be in that little box of hell anymore. No matter if there's already another one of me that easily can do that. I want my way. So she goes back and decides to pretty much travels back in time before past Sabrina gives her a little item to Caliban, but she stops her. She's like, "Hey, this is gonna happen, blah blah blah. So we need to make sure to kill this guy off." Does it? Kills this guy off in a way, they say it and they don't. Like it's weird. Anyway, so he gets defeated. She gets Queen of Hell. And since there's two of them, she's like, okay, cool, this works for me. You stay as Queen of Hell. I will stay as the original Sabrina on Earth. Perfect, yay, we figured it out, she thinks. But of course, Ambrose in the end, says, this is not good. You cannot do that. You're going to cause a paradox, and it's going to fuck up everything, and you need to not do this. But she's like, fuck you, I'm doing what I want. It's not going to work. It's totally going to be fine, even though Ambrose has been the one that's literally has been her ear. She's like, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea, right? That he's over and over times have shown her the domino effect of all these decisions that she does, and she's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And it's like, okay. Well, season 4 is payback towards her actions, because what happens is Blackwood has been working up something, which is releasing the Idris Elba terrors, the Itchwich terrors, which is there a good couple of them. So they starts out with minor ghosts that are coming out from the mines, and they're just breaking all these lights, and they're really just over the lights. They're over electricity. Then the next one that comes in is the uninvited, and that one becomes a thing where she has to get she starts to visit because she's curious about to see how Sabrina's doing. By the way, she's like, I wonder what Sabrina. Sorry, let me back up. Sabrina Morningstar is Queen of Hell. Sabrina Spellman is on Earth. She's like, I wonder what Morningstar is doing. And it was like, and once again, Amber was like, stop, do not go to her. She's like, whatever, I want to see her. Starts to have a play dates with her over and over again, to dancing and introducing her to her friends and doing a switcheroo parent trap stuff. And it's obviously not a good idea. So things are getting crazy because these Eldritch terrors are just sprouting out. As much as they are defeating them each time, there's another one that's even worse. So, in uninvited, if you don't invite him in, he'll kill you. They always invite him in, but of course somebody fucking doesn't invite him, even though he's at the party. And she's like, oh yeah, we can be friends. And she pretty much has to lock him in a dollhouse to keep him hidden. The weird comes in, this little, tentacle kind of, creature. She locks that into another thing as well. And then the perverse, which is that grants wishes, but there's a downside to it. She had to deal with that. And then the dead that comes back to life due to the fact that this guy raises the dead. I forgot the name. Anyway, he's this guy that comes back and he raises people from the dead, and there's a whole trick to it. You can't piss them off or else they'll try to attack you. But of course, that's exactly what happens. So she kind of stops that, and then the Endless happens to where that's not really going well. And the Endless is this thing that just happens over and over again. But apparently, the bigger guy is the Void. And Void is approaching and colliding realms together, with the Hell realm colliding with the Earth realm, and they're mingling together. So they realize that, I wonder what this could have been, what's happening here. Maybe it's the fact that there's two fucking Sabrinas on Earth. And we didn't tell anybody about that until now. Of course, everybody's pissed at Sabrina, but they don't have time to go off on her. And she doesn't have time to hear it either. So they decide to put her in a different dimension that is a different, like Earth 2 in a way, or Morningstar in a different dimension, in Earth 2. And I guess we're cool with Lucifer, by the way, now, because Lucifer's on his throne again. And they decide to pretty much just have her go there. Well, of course, she gets thrown immediately into the Endless. And the Endless is pretty much them having her popping into the same type of world too, but it's on a series, pretty much. It's like a 90s series that she falls into, a TV show, where her aunts are played by the 90s Sabrina aunt from the 90s TV show, Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. And pretty much, it's great to see them. It was really, really cool to see that kind of direction. It's very supernatural in my way. I love kind of seeing that direction. So it makes it seem like a much more light direction. So that doesn't go so well because the Void was coming after the Endless immediately. So she had to get out of that world, and she tries to take people with her, try to take some people with her, but everybody's dying from the Void. And she breaks out. She takes this mirror that transfers her back to Earth 1, and pretty much doesn't really make it alive. She just kind of breaks through and ends up dying from her sacrifice of getting out. But she was able to warn everybody. She's like, the Void's coming, the Void's coming. So they're like, oh shit. So while this has happened, or as much as this has happened, they do have a person that they pray to that gives them the power, which is Hecate. Hecate is the Greek goddess of witchcraft, and so they pray to her, and she actually gives them actual powers. So they have that kind of thing to work on to like defeat him. But of course, things are not going so well, and Sabrina decides to defeat them, or the Void, on her own by going into the Void with the help of, I think it was, who was the one that gave her there's a guy that had one of the Eldritch terrors for sale, and he's like, I also have this thing called this like box, or Pandora box, that pretty much you can just open it, put the Void into it, close it, and you're done. You're good to go. So she's like, cool, okay, I'll do that. So she goes in there, starts to do it, and of course she didn't tell anybody. So of course they don't know what she's going on. They think they lost her. So they try to. So everybody and her aunts and Ambrose is like, okay, we're gonna pull you from there because she's in the Void. We gotta pull her out. So they pull her out and put her into Sabrina's Morningstar's dead body. But that really pissed off Lucifer, because he wanted a full-on a official burial for the body, but the body is being used by Sabrina's Spellman, and everything's going wrong in that direction because they're like, oh, okay, this is really, like, really, really fucked up. So they realize, like, oh, the Void's coming, the Void's really doing stuff, but the Void is inside. Now the Void, because Sabrina's Spellman was in the Void and came out of it, she has a piece of her that a piece of the Void latched onto her soul, so pretty much made her become the Void on Earth. So whenever she tried to cause a spell to anybody, instead of the spell happening, they just vanish. And so she's like, I gotta stop this. And Blackwood is like, I know a way to do it if you come with me. And so she doesn't tell anybody, and she goes with him, not telling anybody. And she ends up going there. They all, like, her friends and the witches end up finding out about that she went with Blackwood, knowing it's a bad idea. They go after her and it's like, hey, don't trust Blackwood, because Blackwood's real direction is to be the one that's whoever Sabrina is and having the Void. He wants to be the person that has the Void inside of him, and he wants to bring the Void closer to Earth to kill everything. So they try to tell her to stop, like, falling with him, but she's like, no, this is actually a good plan. If I take the Void out of me and put it back into the actual Void while somebody else is doing the Pandora box by continuing the Void into the Pandora box, that it'll save a lot of people. So of course they have one person, Nick, go into the Void with the Pandora box. While that's happening, the friends are going in to take out the people that vanished that are inside the Void. But the downside is that she has to bleed out the Void. And it's like this weird, like, white milky blood that's coming out of her as she's, like, pretty much just bleeding out on his table. And it's working. But unfortunately, though, as much as the white blood was seeping out, her real blood was seeping out, and she ends up dying. And they do a little flashback of her life throughout the whole time as she's saying goodbye to a lot of people, and she ends up dying, and they bury her next to Sabrina Morningstar. And everything's fine because everything is back to normal, and Lilith finally gets her wish, where she ends up finding this blade that kills very supernatural people, or creatures, and ends up killing or stabbing Lucifer and drinking his blood to pretty much soak in his power, and now she's queen of hell. I think they didn't really, like, official confirm that, but it seemed like it. So as she puts on the crown, then and takes the throne. So then, of course, what happens, which I think is kind of weird, is that Sabrina's in heaven. The ever after, which is kind of weird, which has reminded me a lot of Legion, because it had the weird word of the sweet ever after. And I was like, this is very, very Legion, direction, Fargo, some that kind of influence. I can smell that influence from that direction. So she's sitting there on this bench looking at the word, the sweet ever after, and guess who fucking joins her is Nick. And she's like, wait, you're not supposed to be there. He's like, I took a swim inside the Sea of Sorrows, and I don't know if that's a metaphor or actual Sea of Sorrows. He's like, it was a really, really wicked undertow. And I was like, I can't help that you literally kind of suicide yourself. Like, you pretty much killed yourself on purpose to be with her, which is a little bit not the lesson that I would want to apply to kids or anybody that's watching that show. Like, oh, if your love dies, just kill yourself and you'll be part of that. You'll be with them again. You know, I don't like that ending. I don't think he should have killed himself. I think there should have been this weird part where she can ghost her way out for a final goodbye to him and kiss him and then go back to heaven or whatever, which is, I don't really understand why she's in heaven due to the fact that I know she got baptized, but that was such a far back thing that didn't really matter to a lot of issues, a lot of plot points. So it's just like, oh, I didn't know there was a heaven, but now there is a heaven. We never even mentioned or talked about it, but it happens. And it's just very lackluster ending in that direction. I feel like they were speeding things up. But I know for sure that they're having a fifth part 5 that's going to come out that's going to be not on the series but in comics. They're going to move to the comic book direction. So we're going to get to see more stuff and the aftermath of a lot of things. But yeah, this is a very, very long video, and I knew this was going to happen because it's a lot to explain. But anyway, I really, really like the cast. I love the cast. I love the person, Jazz Sinclair, that played Rosalind. 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 I loved her. I thought she was so amazing. I loved Ross Lynch being inside as Harvey. I thought it fit so perfectly. I thought we got to see some of his singing too. Gavin Leatherwood playing Nicholas Scratch was very sexy and very cool. Got a little desperate at the end and kind of weird. They felt like they didn't know what to do with his character in a way, but to make him very like pining over Sabrina, it's like, okay. Lachlan Watson fucking killed it as Theo Putnam. I felt like it was really, really nice. I feel like I didn't like the bumpy beginning, but over time I really started to like the character. Who else I want to give a shout out? Ambrose, of course, the person that Chance Perdomo killed it. He did a great job. Huge shout out to Tati Gabriel, who played Prudence Knight, she's one of the weird sisters. Every time she walks in, she looks so amazing. She feels amazing. I just love her. I think she's amazing. Oops, okay, I thought there was something going on. Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for the shout-outs. And, oh, actually, Michelle Gomez, who played Lilith, killed it. Completely killed it. That's pretty much it. Leave a comment below, tell me what you thought. I really, really like this series. I didn't like how they end entirely, but I did like the whole wrap-up of the characters. I give this one pretty much a 4 out of 5. Leave a comment below, tell me what you thought. If you liked it, didn't like it, if you have highlights that you really, really liked, let me know. And I'll see you all in the next video.